Hello and welcome to In the Pocket Across the Pond, the UK NFL Fantasy Football podcast with me, Alex Brindle. I'm joined as always by the other Alex and Lewis, and we'll be reacting to the Week 7 NFL matches, the fantasy football implications of all those matches. National Tight End Day, tight ends went off for once, if you can believe it. Who was a hit, who was a miss for us and in general in fantasy. Then we'll also be going through some dream trade scenarios with the trade deadline just around the corner, as well as playing a bit of trick-or-treat before Halloween, suggesting some waiver pickups for you, and then looking forward to Week 8 with our Fuggedaboutit and our projection beaters. If you want to email into the podcast, inthepocketacrossthepond@gmail.com. We're also on Instagram now, In the Pocket Across the Pond, at Instagram. Give us a follow, it will be much appreciated. Off we go. Lads, you know what I love about this stage of the season? I just crack my knuckles because I love it that much. You're getting, Week 7 now. We're, well into the season, over a third of the way through the regular season. And it's that you get to see the trends. Like, what defenses are bad against running backs, You know who the good teams are in the league and who the bad teams are in the league. Which couldn't have been exemplified more this week, could it? Who are the good teams and the bad teams after this week? Tell me. Well, first of all, I just want to say, I don't know if you agree, lads, but Bijan Robinson was sick this week. He was sick. He was absolutely sick. You can't say he wasn't. Who are the good teams and who are the bad teams? Well, we may as well start off with a pretty bad team up in New York. Not New York, New Jersey based though. I'm talking about Buffalo based. Oh, an overrated team. We'll not say bad, we'll say overrated team. Bills 25-29 Patriots. Patriots couldn't score on anyone for the better part of a month, yet they hang 29 on the Bills. I saw a pretty interesting little... Josh Allen's been getting memed, of course he has. And it was like, when you lose to Mac Jones and Zach Wilson, but you're called elite because your losses to Patrick Mahomes in the postseason are fun. You know what I mean? It's like... I'm not sure where the Bills go from here. I think we already discussed last week how they're kind of a bit of a deja vu team.
The thing is with the Bills, right? For me, this is the Bills. Like, the Bills can beat anyone on the day, I think, but the Bills can also lose to anyone on the day as well.
Yeah. I mean, it was a really good showing by the Patriots, and they were strong at home, as you'd hope they would be. But what a bad loss to the Bills, Sharples?
Yeah, I mean, it's not even like one of those losses to New England where it's like, Bill Belichick's the Sith Lord and he can just stop you scoring. Like, they still put up 25 points. They just conceded 29 to one of the worst offensive teams of the season so far. So I don't even know what you can put it down to, because I feel like we have this conversation every 2-3 weeks about the Bills now. They get a couple under the belt and then it's just, they've lost again. Yeah, you are right. They're a fun team in the postseason. They lose big to Mahomes, and I think it does cloud people's opinions of them. I don't know. I think it's probably going to be the same story for them again. They're going to be there or thereabouts. They'll probably win 12 or so games, and they get bounced in the first or second round of the playoffs. So it's getting a little bit broken record. I don't know what new analysis we can put on it, to be honest.
Yeah. I think they're a good fantasy football team.
Great fantasy football team. Yeah.
That's it.
I mean, the Bills are always going to compete, but
Considering I'm worried about the Bills after that loss, one team who had a bad loss that I personally am not worried about is the Detroit Lions. Now, it was a real pounding by the Ravens. The Ravens did look great. I'm sure we'll talk about the Ravens in a little while. But I think the Lions chalked this one off. You know, the Ravens were on it. The Ravens dominated the pace of play. It was a tough place to go. We weren't on it from the get-go. Chalk it off. Move on to next week. We've been playing really well all season up until this point. I'm not reading too much into this loss, as shocking as it was. Are you, Lou?
No, because you got to assess where the Lions are at. The Lions have been doing so well that they've been spoken about like, you know, they're in like a bit of a playoff, you know, sorry, a Super Bowl, you know, berth. I don't think that's the case for the Lions. I think the Lions are a really good team. The Lions will make the playoffs, and like I predicted in the off season, I think they're going to win a playoff game. I don't see the Lions as, you know, an NFC championship competitor or anything like that. I wouldn't say. They're a really good team, but a loss like this to a team as good as the Ravens, you got a bit of hazing, aren't you? When you're getting up there with the big teams. So this was just one of them. You know, the sort of the learning to compete against these bigger teams, I guess. You know, in a different way to, you know, obviously you play these teams every year and stuff like that, but I think it was just a bit of the Lions sort of being reminded a little bit that, you know, they're not there just yet.
Yeah. Sharples, any advances?
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think it's definitely more the focus on the Ravens, you know, just clicking. However, I do have to say, I would have liked to see the Lions score a few more points. It wasn't like the Ravens just had the ball all game. I'm just looking at the stats now. They pretty much had the exact same amount of time on the ball. Lions still put up over 300 total yards. It's just they couldn't get it done. And I mean, for me, that's just executing it in the red zone where it really matters. So, yeah, we can chalk it off, but I think it'd be easier to chalk off a 38-20 loss than a 38-6 loss. There's just a little bit of like, come on, you're better than that, boys. You know that.
Yeah. Final game that I want to really focus on, we will mention some other teams though, is that Monday night game. Kirk Cousins, primetime Kirk coming out to play Vikings 22, just the 17 for the 49ers. What on earth happened? I mean, given how a lot of the kind of bigger games of the weekend went, not really surprising, considering, like, you know, if you fell asleep before the late window games finish on Sunday, considering the reaction that you might have had to some of those results. But yeah, 49ers, 2 weeks ago, we all had them way ahead of the pack, even last week after that first loss. What happened here, Lou?
I think, you know, obviously a team wins together and a team loses together. I think some of the blame has to fall on your boy, Brick Purdy.
Whoa. Yeah, I've got a curse as soon as I said that Purdy's one of my favourite players in the league. He's been trash.
Yeah, just a couple of bad throws really by Purdy, some poor decision making. But I don't know, like the 49ers, you know, they had McCaffrey, had Ayuk, Purdy was there, the defense, you know, Nick Bosa was there, Fred Warner was out there. The Vikings just brought it to him. You know, Jordan Addison had a great game. Even, you know, you had that great touchdown by Addison, which was sort of a redemption catch from earlier in the game, where it was the exact same scenario, exact same defensive player he was against. I forget the guy's name. Where, you know, in the first quarter, it happens that the ball is snatched out of Addison's hands. The touchdown catch, Addison absolutely snatches it and then bolts it for 40 yards or something like that. The Vikings played really well. That's what I'll say. The Vikings played very well, and there's something going awry in San Francisco at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, Kyle Shanahan is prone to blowing a lead.
He is.
So maybe he just felt like they were just too comfortable at the top of the NFC. However, every week I look forward to certain kind of games, quarterback games getting analysed for me to watch on YouTube, and definitely this week I'd say Jordan Love and Kirk Cousins are the two that I'm very much looking out for, to be like, what happened there?
Because they were both equally great performances.
To be like, what happened there, as well as Derek Carr, I've already watched that video, and oh boy, the Saints, we'll get on to them. Sharples, anything to say about that San Francisco loss or Minnesota win, whichever way you want to spin it?
I thought it was nice how, in terms of the Vikings, it's sort of exactly what you want to happen from a fantasy point of view. So, obviously, Justin Jefferson goes out, and it's like, oh, where are those targets going to go? And instead of spreading it around the offense, they just threw them all to Addison and Hockenson, which is great because that's what everyone wants them to do. So, more of that, please, for the Vikings, because it works.
Absolutely,
the good players throw them the ball. And also,
there you go.
I think, obviously, it's ridiculous saying this because obviously he got 2 touchdowns, but I think McCaffrey was a little bit underutilized coming back off the oblique, only 15 carries. The man is a superhero. Like, if he's fully healthy, you give him the ball every time and give him 300 carries a match. So yeah, I think maybe just the offense a little bit disrupted. Obviously, no Debo, McCaffrey coming back off the oblique. I'm still happy to chalk this one off again, like we did last week for the Niners. And yeah, I think they'll bounce back in the next match. So yeah, I think we're okay. We're all good.
Yeah. Elsewhere, the Chiefs and Eagles just keep rolling. Jaguars, Falcons and Seahawks with somewhat routine victories. The Jaguars with that victory against the Saints, who do not look together at the moment. There was a particular play which I know got pretty scrutinised of Derek Carr going ape at
Olave.
Chris Olave, even though the ball was about 10 yards.
Something's not happening there. Like this, there is no rapport between Olave and Carr that I've seen, especially this past week. Overthrown, underthrown. Olave is just not on the same page as the route, however poorly that ball was thrown,
Do you both, the question for both of you, if you can still extract some value based on draft capital and last season's performance of Chris Olave, do you go out and would you go out and trade Chris Olave for, say, Jordan Addison off that big week?
I wouldn't because if Chris Olave was coming out here and this week getting 4 points, then yeah, go on then. But Chris Olave is getting 12 points, and he's still having what we class as a poor week. So if they get it together, the ceiling is ridiculous.
What about you, Sharples?
Yeah, I think
Addison. We'll keep Addison.
I really like Addison, but I think Olave is still the superior wide receiver, and obviously different situations. I'm sure if you plugged Olave into that Addison slot with no Justin Jefferson and not much else to throw to in that offense, I'm sure he'd get a fair few points as well. Both great, but
would that still be
the edge at the minute?
Would you still both choose Olave if I said Justin Jefferson doesn't come back this year?
Oh,
yeah.
No, sorry, is this fantasy? I thought you were talking from a Saints perspective. Oh no, fantasy football. No. I want Addison on my. I mean, especially if JJ's out for the rest of the season, 100% because he's going to skyrocket. But
yeah,
even if Jefferson's out for 4 or 5 weeks, I think Addison's going to be an absolute monster for these next few games. Yeah.
There's a crop of players that just seem to linger around 11 to 14 points every week, be that good or bad. Depends on how high up your kind of wide receiver depth chart they are in your fantasy teams. But we're talking wide receiver or running back. We're talking Alexander Mattison. We're talking Ramondre Stevenson. We're talking Zay Flowers. We're talking Chris Olave. These players that are perennially 11 to 12 points. Zay Flowers is a really annoying one because I could have sworn in the first quarter of that game, I saw him with my own eyes score 18 fantasy points. And you look at the stat sheet after the game, and again, he's on 11 points. It's a really weird one. I don't know what to think of Zay Flowers personally anymore. You kind of want to play him because the eye test says there's upside there. But yeah, disappointing. But interesting about Chris Olave, I would also be... There's going to be players in a little bit that I'm going to be advocating for you to trade for. I personally think if it was me, I'd try and get out of Chris Olave at the moment. But again, elsewhere, the Bears, Giants, Steelers and Broncos with upset wins. Who's more disappointed this week, lads? the Rams or the Packers. The Rams with that loss at home to the Steelers. I say home in quotation marks.
Yeah.
Or the Packers losing to the Broncos. Who's more disappointed?
Packers.
Why?
Because the Broncos are rubbish and the Steelers are a decent side. Steelers are always going to be a decent team under Mike Tomlin. We spoke about this time and time again on the podcast. Mike Tomlin is the dude. He's a great NFL head coach. As long as Mike Tomlin is the coach of the Steelers, no matter how rubbish they look in preseason and how rubbish we think the players are going to be, they're still going to compete. This Broncos team is embarrassing.
Yeah.
And they just embarrass the Packers.
Yeah. Sharples?
Yes, it is. It's definitely the Packers. Broncos are terrible. Just to play devil's advocate, though, I think you could maybe argue the Rams with Cooper Kupp coming back. I know obviously Puka Nacua had a good game. I think I'd have liked to have seen a little bit more out of this Rams offense. Early days, and literally, I'm just, as I said, doing it to play devil's advocate. But I think there's definitely an argument to me. I mean, Cooper Kupp getting 2 for 29 is absolutely atrocious. That can't happen. So
yeah,
let's just see how that progresses in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. Of course, how could I forget it? What a nice place to end on. We saw the Browns at the Colts being the highest scoring game of the weekend, which everyone predicted, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Everyone predicted an absolute shootout here, didn't they? What a game. Sharples texted us partway through the game and said, I can't believe I'm playing 2 Colts running backs and Gardner Minshew has 2 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah.
I think there was a few more expletives in the text I sent, but yeah, that was the gist of it.
Yeah.
Great game, and I think it's incredible if you consider that the Colts without Anthony Richardson just put up 38 points on what was statistically the best defense in the league. Like, you know,
Shane Steichen's got him rolling.
He has really.
I'd be really optimistic if I was as Sharples is a Jonathan Taylor owner.
Yeah. Can I just come out? This isn't anything to do with this game. Okay. So
can I just one more point on this game? I really like those Colts unis.
Yeah.
Just saying, I love the black.
The jerseys.
I thought it was really cool.
Yeah,
and the helmets. Yeah.
Just on a scale of. I think so you know this take that I'm going to give you because I texted you both it. So I don't really want your reactions. I mean, you know how spicy it is and how not spicy it is. On a scale of like milk to sriracha sauce.
Sriracha. What about a ghost pepper?
A ghost pepper.
Is sriracha sauce the hottest thing you could think of?
Yeah. How hot is this take, right? And I texted it to you. The Miami Dolphins. I think they beat up on bad teams, and I think they simply cannot and won't compete against any team with a winning record.
I don't think that's a super hot take because I think they're spicy. I don't know, maybe a McSpicy from McDonald's that aren't very spicy at all. Or maybe mayonnaise.
Mayonnaise? That is not spicy whatsoever.
Neither was your take, my friend.
I would say HP sauce, because HP sauce has a bit of a spice. Has a little bit of a little bit of a spice to it.
No, it doesn't. It's more tangy, I would say, HP. Anyway, I think there are multiple teams in the league this season that are like that. So I don't think that's super...
Sharples?
Spicy.
How spicy is it? I don't agree with it. I think...
So it would be hot.
People are still projecting the Dolphins to be up there. So I suppose in terms of the consensus, it's spicy because most people disagree with you. So I'm going to give you jalapeno.
Jalapeno. That's like a mainstream spice as well. To be fair.
But then I mean, if you look at score,
we all know jalapenos are spicy.
Probably not much. So I'm giving you middle ground spicy.
Cheers, lad.
Obviously two losses to big teams, and it is obviously glaring on the stat sheet that you're right. They absolutely beat up on the likes of the Panthers and the Broncos. But I still think they're going to be too good. I think we just need to give them a few more games against good offenses, and I'm sure they can even it out because the offense is just silly, and I think they will still swarm good teams. We just need to give them a bit more time.
Of course.
Well, impressive victory this week. I'm going to go Ravens thought they looked really great. They completely controlled the pace and tempo of the game. Lamar Jackson looked fantastic. They could run the ball. Andrews, tight end day, whatever rubbish that is. Ravens. Lou?
Ravens, yeah, looked fantastic.
Sharps?
Caw, Ravens.
Not buying it win. I thought this was hard this week, but I'm going Broncos, of course, even though I do think it was a worrying loss for Green Bay, and a significant one. I am going Broncos. Lou?
Yeah, I had 3 teams listed here, and the 3 that you were probably thinking of as well. But yeah, I'm going to go Broncos just because I think the Broncos are bad.
Yeah, and Sharples?
Broncos are bad. I'm going to mix it up there. I think the Patriots, I don't know how they managed to put up that many points. I've watched them with my own eyes the past few weeks, and they are garbage. So I think we'll see that trend right itself again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the worst team in the league, I was going to go for that team that plays in Vegas, although the record isn't as bad as I thought it was. So I'm going to go the Saints because I thought Thursday night was a complete car crash. The Saints. Lou?
I know. What do you do when all the teams that you usually put in this category win? You go with the Raiders.
Okay, so you did go with the Raiders.
Yeah.
The record is okay, though. That's the thing. I think
right.
they're like 3 and 4. Sharples?
Yeah, Raiders as well. I mean, conceding 30 to a team that's got, what's his name, Bilbo Baggins at quarterback. I mean, just absolutely outrageous.
Tyson Bagent.
Yeah, Bagent.
Shout out.
Not Baggins. When they were just throwing the ball to Devontae Adams, I was like, oh, they might actually win. And then that stopped. And then, they just got hammered. So, yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Are we doing heading to the booth now?
Can do heading to the booth now.
Just quickly.
You remember though, the premise of this is that because I've seen who you've picked.
Mine's changed. Mine has changed. So the screen is lying to you.
Is it? Because the one that you've got written on there, I don't know what you would bring to a broadcast booth.
How to not coach a team.
Brandon Staley, yeah. They've got to bring something to the broadcast booth as well as not being, fit to play, not having any right to play in the NFL anymore. That's why I think Daniel Jones should join the Manning cast next year. So I'm going to go Daniel Jones heading to the Manning cast booth.
Okay, well, to be fair, mine is along the same lines as yours because mine also is a player who's given an egregiously bad contract. It's Deshaun Watson, but
he's never getting a job.
Crucially, you didn't let me finish. Crucially, the booth that Deshaun Watson will be in next year is one that you can order a cheeseburger and large fries from.
Yeah. Like we said at the weekend when he was playing terribly, it's just fantastic to see. It
is great to see Deshaun Watson playing awfully, but let's talk about some players who did well.
Yeah, let's talk about some players who did pretty darn well. Top 5 quarterbacks on the week: Lamar Jackson, Mahomes, Minshew, Allen and Hurts. Not great quarterback scoring on the whole this week. There's always those down weeks positionally. Devonta Foreman at the running back position was the top scorer the week when everyone dropped into the benches, so that's fantastic. Alvin Kamara looks really good this year. For fantasy, in real life, I thought he did make a few mistakes, but luckily in fantasy you don't get minus points for missed blocks because there were plenty. Jahmyr Gibbs is here finally. Travis Etienne is rolling, and McCaffrey is obviously on here at 5. Elsewhere, Gus Edwards, Jonathan Taylor, James Cook, Saquon Barkley with nice games. You feared when Barkley went down holding the arm, but he came back in and he was really well. Wide receiver Jordan Addison, hell yeah. AJ Brown is over 125 yards in the past 5 games.
Wow.
Whoa.
Wow.
That's kind of come out of nowhere.
Great.
I for some reason, I was still in the mind that AJ Brown's having a slow start to the season. Then I realised it was week 7, yeah. Tyreek, Josh Downs, good game. Colts wide receiver. Puka Nacua up there.
Puka Nacua is a monster. There was a catch that he made on the sideline where he gets absolutely creamed by like two defenders and still kept hold of it. Still did a little toe tap as well. Yeah. Unbelievable wide receiver.
Amon-Ra St. Brown and Mike Evans with good games too. And tight end, National Tight End Day it was indeed. Travis Kelce, 12 catches, 179 yards and a touchdown. Monstrous. I think he might have been the number one scorer on the week. Darren Waller, Mark Andrews, TJ Hawkinson, Dallas Goedert, all with great weeks. But of course, those are your main tight end names anyway. The general tight end landscape is still horrible. Any standout fantasy players this week, though, lads? Can be someone I mentioned or someone I have not.
It was great to see Darren Waller have a great game, I'd say. Looked really good, was targeting the offense because he's got a quarterback who knows how to throw the ball to him. Yes. Tyrod Taylor. How, if you're the Giants and you're Brian Daboll, how do you bench Daniel Jones? Because you have to. You have to. They're playing better football with Tyrod Taylor, and that is undeniable. So how do you bench him? And how do you tell the owner of that team, you know this guy that we're paying $40 million to every year? Oh, I don't want to play him.
He's bad. He's really bad. Sharples, any standouts?
It was National Tight End Day, so I'm going to stick with the theme. Mark Andrews, just lovely to see him being thrown to in the end zone. I'm hoping it's not just a National Tight End Day thing, because there did seem to be a lot of tight end points this week. I'm hoping he's in the game plan going forward, because he will catch things if you throw him the ball.
He was always open as well.
If you throw it, he will catch. Or some variation on that quote.
Busts, though. Bijan Robinson.
He was sick.
He was sick. Like I said to you before, Lou, this could get into a whole your tattoo says dude, your tattoo says sweet scenario.
A la dude was my cat.
He was ill, is what we mean. That used to be a word for something being good as well, though.
He was ill. He was ill. Sick.
But you're probably going to give us a bit of news on that in a bit.
Will.
Cheeky Gabe, bad game. Amari Cooper, awful game. Josh Jacobs, Austin Eckler, bad games. Here are two players, though. I'm not going to mention Cooper Kupp in this because the Cooper Kupp owner was holding on to him for a reason. However, as I did in our main league, go after either Josh Jacobs or Austin Eckler. I packaged a running back and a wide receiver up in our main league and came back with Austin Eckler this week. Go after Jacobs.
Tell everyone who you're trading, Al. He traded Christian McCaffrey and Tyreek Hill for Austin Eckler.
Yeah, that's what I did. It's not true. It's not true. I traded Jalen Waddle and Alexander Mattison for Austin Eckler. Go out. Any disagreements with me there? Are we advocating going out and getting Jacobs and Eckler this week?
Yeah, the usage is there for Jacobs. It's worrying that he's still stuttering. I'm a Josh Jacobs manager in a few leagues. Killed me a few times, but I'm staying the course. Yeah, I'm keeping him.
Sharples?
I think I'd be a lot happier with Eckler than Jacobs. I've just got a feeling this Devontae Adams situation might disrupt that offense a little bit. And I think it's something. Josh Jacobs is like just about the 10th running back, I think, and Eckler's 44. So I know it sounds a bit daft, but I just think once Eckler's back in there in that offense, he's going to see the ball a lot. Jacobs, one, I still think the Chargers are a much better offense than the Raiders, and the Raiders are just a bit bad in general. Plus the sort of discontent with Adams, I do think that's probably a little bit of a toxic locker room at the minute. So, maybe I'm wrong. But obviously, both great players on the pitch, but I think I'd be looking more towards Eckler than Jacobs.
Yeah. As I mentioned, Cooper Kupp, bad game as well. Justin Herbert hasn't looked good for a couple of weeks. Raheem Mostert, I think we chalked this one off to a bad game for the Dolphins. And Calvin Ridley. This is a weird one, though. I'm worried now if I'm a Calvin Ridley owner. Because he just doesn't look like the guy in this offense.
No.
I don't know whether he looks bad, like as in he's lost a step or anything. It just doesn't look like he's the first read.
He isn't, and I'm going to talk about who is the first read a little later on.
Okay. But into our projection beaters for last week.
This is a joke. This quarterback one is a joke.
It is. I'll go through mine first. So we had Jordan Love, Isaiah Pacheco, and Kyle Pitts having, okay games. Nothing amazing. Christian Watson with a bad one, though, only 5.7 fantasy points. Sharples with a clean week, nice clean week to be fair. Dobbs had 16 points, so it wasn't anything, but it was a nice game. Drake London had an insane catch.
Yeah.
and held on to the ball. 11.4 fantasy points. It was a nice game, but Kareem Hunt was a hit. And Taysom Hill.
Great shout.
Starting off, before the Instagram post, plug in the Instagram, go and follow In the Pocket Across the Pond.
In the Pocket Across the Pond on Instagram, yes.
Before the Instagram post of our projection beaters was even posted, Sharples secured a hit with Taysom Hill. Talk us through that one, Sharples.
Listen, I mean, did I pick him because his projection was so low that he basically had to lose points in order for me to be a bust? Yes. But we know what Taysom Hill is. He's a wild card. You know what I mean? He's not a tight. Is he a tight end? Is he a running back? Is he a quarterback?
Yeah.
He's a wild card, and he often lines up in the wild cat formation. Who knows what he's going to do? All I know is such a low projection, and given the fact that he could score 2 touchdowns on any given week, you got to get him in there. Which is why, spoiler alert, you're picking him again.
Nice. I love it. I'd love you to pick him every week.
Do you know what?
I like the fact
I'm going to pick him until he lets me down, which inevitably will be this week.
Yeah. I love picturing the Saints like over the past few years actually trying to move on from Taysom Hill, but every time we just get like the It's Always Sunny scene of Charlie be like wild card, and he'll do something like he did this past week or something.
I remember Al, was it? I think it was either my first season or maybe second season. There was a week where the Saints, I think both of the Saints' 2 starting quarterbacks got injured. And you started Taysom Hill as a tight end, even though he was actually a quarterback on the game. And I just thought it was absolutely
I did.
I do remember that week. I do remember that week because you were against me, and I ended up still beating you because he wasn't that good.
Yeah, he only got like 15 points or something. Yeah. But it was just the sheer rush of having a quarterback.
Imagine, that was wild. That was absolutely wild.
I don't. You say like you hope that. That kind of fantasy sites and platforms have caught up to it, but how do you catch up to that?
No, you can't.
Just designate him as I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, Lou, talk us through that miss at the quarterback position. Bear in mind, so if you need a reminder, our projection beaters, we do 4 points above the ESPN projection is a hit, 4 points below is a miss. Anything in the middle is nothing because you're happy with it. You're not ecstatic with it, but you'll take it. But Brock Purdy on 12.78 fantasy points this week, Lou, was a miss.
If Brock Purdy got 0.2 fantasy points more, it would have been fine. But it was a miss because instead of getting 12.8, he got 12.78, which is... Yeah, whatever.
But I mean, Stevenson, Olave, and Musgrave were all okay.
The thing is, Olave, right? Can I just say, Chris Olave, 12.7 points. He had 15 targets. 15 targets.
It just goes to show the quality of those targets.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you are new, we tot all these up at the end of the season. We did really well last year. Next week, when we do a bit of a mid-season review, I'll get up where we were about. Were our hits and misses numbers wise were last season, and I think we're significantly behind.
That is not right. That is not right.
We did move the goalposts a little bit in terms of, I think last year it was 3 points below or 3 points above was a hit.
3 points above was a hit, 5 points below was a miss.
Yeah, so we're being harder on ourselves this year because we're more experienced podcasters, more experienced fantasy football players. Your misses at the quarterback would have been misses regardless, mate.
I've not had a hit since week 3.
At the quarterback or in general?
In general.
Don't listen to lyrics.
This is meant to be like a good fantasy expertise show.
No, they come to me and Sharples to the expertise. They come to you to laugh at.
Nice.
News.
A few injuries this week and a little bit of news about Chris Olave. Which we'll get to. Relevant, though, because his quarterback is Derek Carr, but you'll see.
Okay.
Saquon Barkley hyperextended his elbow during the Giants' win, as we mentioned. Came back in the game, looked great, so don't expect him to miss any time. Karen Williams,
Kaz.
placed on injured reserve prior to Sunday's game with an ankle injury, which was not meant to be that bad, but he's going to miss 4 weeks now, so... Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about who you can pick up in his absence. Jalen Hurts, this was a weird one. He played the second half of a brace on his left knee, and then at the end of the game he says he hopes it won't affect him as the season progresses.
Oh, well, yeah.
So just keep an eye on that. Bijan Robinson was sick.
He was ill. Not well.
He was not well. The coaching staff came out in the middle of the game and said he's not feeling great, which I think he played a total of 7 snaps or something.
He looked like he was going to be sick.
He did. He really did. He didn't look like a healthy boy. The Falcons are actually being... they're currently being asked an injury report compliance question by the league, because basically any player who misses a game or plays less than they usually play, but they're not on their injury report, prompts a bit of an inquiry from the league. So depending on when the Falcons actually found out about Robinson's illness, they could actually face a fine for breaking league rules if they knew about it prior to the final injury report and just wanted to get him out there and see how he felt.
Yeah. Hopefully they can just go with the narrative that they were playing the hot hand in Tyler Algier, but it depends. It depends whether the injury report people are blind or not.
Yeah. Speaking of throwing up, Deshaun Watson was ruled out after he aggravated his shoulder injury that he's been hampered with this season. He didn't return to the game, undergoing further tests.
He was stood with his stuff on, so it was their decision to keep him out of the game. He was stood there as if he was expecting to go back on every snap,
You know, when I'm getting these injury reports, I do have a look at various different sources and stuff. So, you know, and I sort of, relate it back in a way. So as well, I got this from one of the websites as well. Is what's more concerning than Watson's shoulder, though, is his complete inability to look like he ever knew how to actually play football. Christian Watson having tests on a knee injury that he suffered at the end of the Packers game versus the Broncos. Obviously, Watson has missed a lot of games with a hamstring injury. This is just another one of them. Keep an eye on that.
Injury-prone guy.
Yeah, Luke Musgrave as well for the Packers exited with an ankle injury, which was amazing. Because when he was ruled out, I immediately assumed it was because he nearly had his head blown up by a helmet. But his head's fine. But he was in a walking boot after the game. Right. Deebo Samuel.
Ding, ding, ding. That's 3 super injury-prone players in a row. Watson, Musgrave, and Deebo Samuel.
Ruled out prior to the Monday night game with a lingering shoulder injury, so keep that monitored. And then also DK Metcalf was a game-time decision, but eventually inactive due to rib/hip injuries that he's dealing with, so keep an eye on that. And then the bit of news that is Chris Olave Carr related, not Derek Carr, I'm talking automobile. Chris Olave has been arrested.
What? When?
Monday. Arrested on suspicion of reckless driving. No comment from the team or the league as of yet. Obviously, no injuries or anything, thank God. To anyone. Right. But obviously, he was just... I think I read he was going like 70 and a 30 or something like that. So, so just maybe disciplinary action happening for Chris Olave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a joke, right?
There is jokes, cars.
There's a joke.
There's
a car, Derek Carr being angry at him related joke in the... I'll think of one and try and get it in.
He was trying... He was trying harder to catch a light than he was to catch a pass.
No, I was thinking of a better one than that.
Okay.
Anyway, I want to talk about some dream scenarios now. With the trade deadline approaching... on the 31st of October. And this is our last show before then. We want to give you one dream...
the trade deadline?
Oh. The trade deadline approaching. We want to give you a dream scenario each for fantasy football. If we could just put a player from one team on another team... and we think it would be amazing for fantasy football. There's so many. When I'd done mine, there were so many more that I could think of.
Patrick Mahomes to the Cowboys.
This is a fantasy dream scenario, so obviously us sick and twisted Cowboys fans can't just have every good player under the sun come to the Cowboys. I'll start us off, lads. And in my dream scenario, the San Francisco 49ers trade for Devontae Adams.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I know they've already got some nice weapons in San Francisco, but they've got no one like Devontae Adams. With the trade for McCaffrey last year, the Niners showed that when they have a real elite player, they are willing to get him involved, no matter what, and make them vital to the game plan. Deebo Samuel, the wide receiver, is more of a gadget guy and he's super injury prone. And Brandon Ayuk, he's playing well, but he's by no means an elite wide receiver in the NFL. Adams, on the other hand, is an all-pro and he's always open. Imagine Kyle Shanahan manufacturing Devontae Adams targets. Purdy of 2 weeks ago. Slicing and dicing defences with a combination of McCaffrey checkdowns and Devontae Adams darts. Just the mesh of the dynamic and unique offense of the 49ers and Purdy's anticipation and accuracy and Adams' route running and ability to be wide open would just be incredible for fantasy. So that would be my dream scenario. Sharples, what's yours?
I mean, this is an absolutely wild one. Obviously, it could never happen in real life. But obviously, Jets struggling at QB at the minute. Zach Wilson up and down. I mean, it'd be absolutely mental. But I would love to see Aaron Rodgers line up for the Jets.
Is Aaron Rodgers in the room with us right now?
I think I've got Aaron Rodgers with us right now, Sharples.
Yeah, you know, this boot is feeling pretty good, and I think in my bad boy turn I could win a couple more MVPs, and that's a cheers, Aaron.
In all seriousness, though, he's not coming back for Week 10. His Achilles tendon came off the bone like a good old Texas brisket.
It hit a fan in the face.
Yeah. Carry on, Sharples.
Yeah, I didn't prep for this, so I'm just flying by the seat of my pants here. But just to do a very obvious one, potentially the best wide receiver in the league, going to the best quarterback in the league. For too long, Travis Kelce has been hoarding targets like some greedy dragon in a dwarven tomb. I've not seen The Hobbit for a while. I forgot all the names. I would like to see Cooper Kupp going to the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, nice. I actually also wrote down that I do also think Tyreek Hill would be good at the Chiefs.
In Bizarro's world.
Yeah. Go on, Lou.
We're talking about similar teams and players here. I was thinking about Devontae Adams as well, but no, I'm not going to go Devontae Adams for another team. I'm going to go with one that I actually spoke about with our brother Adam, and I'm going to say Garrett Wilson to the Chiefs because I know that whenever a player gets traded to the Chiefs or they acquire someone, we all get carried away and stuff like that because it's exciting. It's exciting when the prospect of a player playing with Patrick Mahomes, but I feel like
anyone on the Chiefs.
Yeah, I feel like Garrett Wilson at the Chiefs would be unquestionably the best wide receiver in that room. His ability, as we're talking about with like Devontae Adams, to get wide open, his ability for explosive plays with the most explosive quarterback in the league. Wow, honestly.
Imagine Barkley at the Chiefs.
Imagine anybody at the Chiefs.
By the way, you did realise this was dream scenario, not nightmare scenario. You've written Cousins to the Saints.
No. Let me point that out. Okay.
How would he be any better with the Saints than he is with the Vikings?
No. Okay. I'm not thinking about Kirk Cousins in that scenario. I'm thinking about Chris Olave.
Well, why wouldn't you just say Chris Olave to the Chiefs then?
To the Vikings.
Or the Vikings, or why Cousins? Why wouldn't you say like Mahomes to the Saints?
Because that's not a dream scenario. That's sort of like a probably scenario.
Okay.
Cousins to the Saints. I'm going Garrett Wilson to the Chiefs.
Okay. Well, sticking with the Halloween theme, got a bit of trick or treat. Got a bit of trick or treat for you two gentlemen. Basically, I'm going to read you a player prop for the week ahead, and you're going to tell me whether it's a nasty old trick or a treat. Yay! Woo! We'll walk you through this first one to give you an example. So DJ Moore this week at the Los Angeles Chargers, who are terrible against wide receivers. DJ Moore to have more than 65 receiving yards against the Chargers. Now, I don't think Justin Fields is going to play, so they've got Bilbo Baggins. But trick or treat. Is that a trick or a treat? DJ Moore to have more than 65 receiving yards. Sharples, trick or treat?
I'm just looking at his past couple of games. He managed 51 and 54 in his last two, despite having 8 and 9 targets, respectively. So that would indicate a trick. But I think this Chargers team, didn't you say it's the worst ranked defense? It's showing up as the worst here. So
they're terrible.
65 yards,
They're terrible.
I think he can do that. I think that's going to be a lovely, scrumptious treat.
Nice, Lou.
Yeah, I was thinking along the same lines as Sharples, looking at that, but I also think that's going to be a treat. I think Bajan, I don't know whether they win that game.
Bajan the agent.
Agent Bajan.
Bajan.
I'm going to go treat as well. I think that I'm just picturing in my head DJ Moore catching the ball for 5 yards and then running it for 70 yards after catch,
Double O Agent. Next one, trick or treat. DeAndre Swift at the Commanders. DeAndre Swift to score more than 16 fantasy points.
I think that's a trick.
Ooh.
Just because the Eagles this year have been a little bit like the Bills in that they've been the teams that you think they're gonna absolutely steamroll. They've had a bit of a hard time against them, so I can see the Commanders somehow coming out and being like 14-0 up or something like that, something stupid, which would force Philadelphia to unlock AJ Brown again. So I'm going trick.
Sharples?
Over 16. I think I want to say trick as well. I think I agree with what Lou said. I mean, the Commanders have got a notoriously horrible defensive line, and when I say horrible, I mean really good. Like, you would not want those men running at you. Obviously, John Lewis Swift's a great player, but yeah, I think the Commanders will be able to swallow them up, and I think it's going to be a cagey affair, maybe not super high scoring, so I don't think he's got a touchdown against his name for me this week. So yeah, I think that might be a nasty trick.
Okay.
It's a tough one though, because I mean, since week 2 when Swift won that job, so that's that's 6 weeks now. He has surpassed 16 points in 4 of those weeks.
I knew what I was doing when I set these lines, man.
So, okay, apologies for assuming that you didn't, but can anyone blame me?
Trick or treat, Patrick Mahomes at the fantastic, the unbeatable Denver Broncos. More than 3 passing touchdowns. Trick or treat.
I've opened the door to a beautiful house on trick-or-treating night. There's cookies baking in the oven that I can see. Is
anyone in this house?
Nope.
Just broke into an house.
Correct. There's an assortment of there's chocolate, there's toffee, there's Skittles, There's anything I can wish. This is the biggest treat ever. Yes. More than 3 passing touchdowns.
Okay. I'm just thinking of the fact that Denver are ungodly awful at defending the run. And I'm asking for 3 passing touchdowns for Mahomes. Or more than 3 Okay, Sharples?
Yeah. No, that's a trick. So more than 3, so 4 passing touchdowns. Fair play. He did it last week against the Chargers. Denver are terrible, but no, I just think that's a bridge too far, even for beautiful. So
you'll have Kelsey will catch 2, Rice will catch 1,
okay.
Like MVS will probably catch 1.
Okay. Trick or treat, Mike Evans at Buffalo. 5 or more receptions. Now, Mike Evans on the season is currently averaging 8 targets and 5 receptions. Mike Evans has been really great. Not the easiest place to go and play, though. Trick or treat, Lou.
I'm going to say treat. I think the Buccaneers are going to have to keep up in this game. Buffalo can score points no matter who they lose against. They can put up yards, put up points. So I think that they're going to have to hyper-target Evans, aren't they?
Yeah. Sharples?
So, did you say over 5 receptions? So 6 receptions?
More, 5 or more. 5 or more.
Yeah, I think given... Just looking at his stats for the season, I think pretty safe. Obviously, the defense might focus in on, so maybe it's Godwin gets involved a bit more. But yeah, no, I think 5's doable. I think that's a treat.
Okay, just a couple more. Trick or treat. Jonathan Taylor versus New Orleans. Always a good rush defense. No different this year. More than 70 rushing yards for Jonathan Taylor. Trick or treat. Now, he just had 75 this previous week, and he could get more of the work.
I think that is a trick, just because New Orleans have been a really good defense across the board this year. That's why the games often have hit the under, because they've kept it sort of in reach. So I think the Colts might have a tough time. But then again, they did just put 38 up on the Browns. But no, I'm going trick. I'm going trick.
Sharples, I think you're going different, aren't you?
Yeah, I think treat. Definitely the Saints' defense is no joke. But I just think last week Jonathan Taylor, 18 carries, got 75 yards. And there was still a little bit of Zach Moss there. I think this week it's probably going to be the full Jonathan Taylor show. So I'm hoping for over 20 carries, and I think he can do it. He looked like we saw flashes of the old Jonathan Taylor. I think he's back, and 75. It's a high ballpark. I think it'll be close, but I think he can do it with a few more carries. So yeah, nice scrumptious treat.
Nice. And finally, trick or treat. Tyreek Hill versus New England. More than 25 fantasy points, currently averaging 26, very high watermark. Yeah, trick or treat. More than 25 fantasy points for Tyreek, Lou.
I'm going to say treat, because they're at home.
Okay.
Miami at home against New England. His yardage was a bit on the lower side this past week. I think he got 88 yards or something like that. I think Tyreek wants to blow up again because he wants to get that 2,000 yard season, doesn't he? Mm-hmm. I'm going to go. I don't want to bet against Tyreek Hill. It's funner not to bet against Tyreek Hill.
Yeah. Sharples.
I think that's a trick. Unfortunately, they've played New England already this season. Week 2, he only got 15 points. Bill Belichick. Not only does he shut down quarterbacks, which I think he'll do to Tua. I think Tua had a bad week when they played New England as well. He loves bringing down the number one option of your team. You see it a lot, like the number one guys go up to New England and don't play the best. So I think that's just going to be the case again. Obviously with Tyreek, he could go off for a massive play and that and get an 80-yard touchdown and then you're fine. But yeah, I think Darth Bill's got something planned for him. And as you say, 26 points was it? Is a very high watermark. So no, I think that's a packet of raisins in your trick or treat chocolate.
Oh, I think that is true.
A candied apple,
that is true.
Grim.
Candied apple that works. That works double as well.
What do you mean?
Because it's like.
What are you on about?
Because we're talking about, it's not just like you've seen an apple. You feel in your trick or treat bag, and you're like, oh, bloody hell, an apple. And you pick it out, and it's like, whoa, candy, and then you bite into it, and it's like, oh, bloody hell, an apple again.
Yeah.
I think you know what that is correct about Bill Belichick taking away the number one option. What has been the mistake this year by Bill Belichick is that is the only option he has taken away.
Yeah.
And he's forgotten about all the other players that he's against.
Yeah. Anyway, into waivers. Quick shout out to some guys that are rostered in less than 50% of leagues that we think are worth picking up. Sharples, who've you got?
I've got 2 running backs this week. One guy, I don't think we mentioned around the time that James Conner got injured, but Emery Demercado, running back for the Cardinals, rostered in just under 16% of leagues. He's certainly not been lights out since Connor's been out, but he's getting all the work there. He'll probably be good for sort of 12, 13 points a week. There's probably a lot of teams that need that right now. I certainly wouldn't sniff at it in my flex slot. So, I've gone for Demercado. And a guy who just crept under our rostered limit. He's rostered in 48% of leagues. That's Deontay Foreman. Obviously, huge week. Not expecting to get 33 points every week, but it looks like he's going to get the goal line work. And looks like he's got some juice. So, again, if you're looking for a guy in your flex slot who could blow up, we've just seen him blow up. You might get a few busts with him, but there's definitely potential there. So, Foreman for the Bears.
Yeah, Lou?
I am going to go with Josh Downs, wide receiver for the Colts, rookie wide receiver for the Colts, who's looked really good, especially with Gardner Minshew. So they've obviously got a rapport there. Bet on that, pick him up. Mm-hmm. He's been really nice. And I'm also going to go with Darrell Henderson, running back for the Rams, who... It wasn't actually on the Rams at the start of the season. I think he was at the Jags, and then they brought him back to the practice squad. Then they activated him to the roster, and then he got a lot of the work this week. I'm saying pick up Henderson just because he's familiar with that offense. They obviously know him and trust him, which is why they brought him back in to start while Karen is out. So I'm going to say Henderson, who will be available in pretty much every single league.
Yeah. I'm going to go Tank Dell. Player that's blown up a few times already this season in a really pass-heavy offense. And Chuba Hubbard, who I mentioned last week, he's coming off the bye. I think he's going to be the go-to guy there now in Carolina over Miles Sanders, so pick them two up. Also, check your waiver wires and see if Kareem Hunt and Gus Edwards, they're a bit higher rostered percentage-wise, but check if they're on there. Let's look ahead to week 8, though, chaps. No teams on bye, and
does that always happen?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
And because for some reason then you'll have like a million teams on bye next week, something like that. No teams on bye, and because our clocks go back and America's don't till next week, we get 5 p.m. red zone. Very nice stuff.
Dead Zone.
Halloween. Witching Hour. Scott Hansen. Matchup targets I just want to briefly mention. Because we're 7 weeks in now, we kind of know the teams that we want, the defenses that we want to target. There's 5 I've got for you. A few of them have got specifics in there. So Denver, bad team, bad defense, especially against the run. Chargers, really bad defense against wide receiver and quarterbacks. But also Giants, Washington, and Panthers. Those 5 are the teams that we're definitely targeting with our players. If you are unsure in terms of a start-sit decision, and we've not mentioned that player on the podcast, if they're playing one of those 5 defenses, get them in there because it's matchup, and these are really bad at not conceding points.
They're bad at not conceding points.
Yeah. But anyway, let's look ahead in terms of fantasy players. I'm going to start with how we always start this section.
Forget about it!
It's forget about it. It's the players that are locked into your lineup no matter what. Don't worry about
Whoa, he's wearing a ghost outfit. Sorry, I didn't realise that. I did not realise that the forget about it man was wearing a ghost outfit.
Yeah, well, it is
pretty
Halloween.
shoddy craftsmanship, though. It's just like a blanket with a couple of eyes stitched on it, but whatever.
Quarterback, forget about it. It's Hurts, Mahomes, Allen, and Lamar.
Forget about it!
Running backs, McCaffrey, Eckler, Jacobs, Etienne, Swifty, Ken Walker, Alvin Kamara, Raheem Mostert, and Tony Pollard.
Forget about it!
Wide receiver, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, AJ Brown, Cooper Kupp, stick with him, Keenan Allen, Jamar Chase, and CeeDee Lamb.
Forget about it!
And unfortunately, if you are in a league where you have to play tight ends, it's Kelsey, Hawkinson, Andrews, Kittle, and Laporta.
Forget about it!
Thank you, mate. I think he's going trick-or-treating. That's why he's dressed as a ghost.
He just floated through the wall. What?
So he is a ghost. That's stupid. Projection beaters. Players that we think are going to outscore the projections this week by 4 or more fantasy points. We'll start in the spookiest place of all, the tight ends, and we'll start with the spookiest guy of all, Alex Sharples.
Ooh, ghoulish.
I'm going to go with Taysom Chill. I don't have I just thought of that one as I was saying it. I'm not going to promise I can do a Halloween pun on everyone. I will do my best, though. Yeah, like I said...
I'm also going to try now.
Yeah. Like I said when I mentioned it before, He's projected 5.5 points. He has to do very, very little to still be an okay pick for me. And he's got that potential of maybe he'll get a little receiving touchdown or a rushing touchdown or I still don't understand why he keeps getting these low projections. He's very boom bust, but when he booms, he booms. So yeah, Taysom Hill again. Gonna ride this man to hits every week until he lets me down, and then I'll never pick him ever again.
Nice. I'm gonna go with Jake Ferguson, and I couldn't think of a pun for Jake Ferguson. I think I've got one for another player though. Halloween or horror based pun. Jake. No, not got anything. Projected 9 versus the Rams. The Rams are bottom 7 defense versus tight end. So I'm hoping for a touchdown here in what could be a game with a lot of points. Lou,
I'm gonna go with Dalton Schultz.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. Listen, Schultz, since week 4, he's averaged 16.3 fantasy points a game, which is good enough to be third among tight ends over that stretch in points per game. Become one of CJ Stroud's favourite targets, facing a Panthers team who, you know, they aren't the best matchup for tight ends, but then again, they are arguably the worst team in the league. So Schultz, I don't think he'll have a problem putting up a nice stat line once again.
Nice. Running back, Sharples.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure on the logic with this one. I thought it was a relatively beatable projection. I've gone Derrick Henry, 14.4 points projected. He's against the Atlanta Falcons, which I was surprised that they are actually the second-ranked defense against the run. But I just think with Tannehill not being there, I don't really know what else they're going to do offensively unless they just give him the ball. He saved his value last time he played because he ripped off a 70-yard touchdown. I don't think he's going to do that again, but I just think he is going to be the offense this week. And at 14.4. Give him 30 carries and let's just give him the ball and see. So I think it's a beatable one, but I think it could blow up in my stupid face as well.
Okay, I'm gonna go Breece Fall of the House of Usher. Okay, it's a horror story thing,
right?
Not very Halloweeny though. Breece Hall projected 15.8 at the New York Giants. Now, this is a confidence play for all Breece Hall owners, I would say. It's been a strange season for Hall, you know, coming off the bad injury, the bringing in of Dalvin Cook, the really slow start to the season, the injury to Rodgers, the couple of big weeks right before the bye week that may have faded in people's memory too. Well, Hall's for real. We saw him reclaim the lead role for the Jets and get super involved in the passing game just before the bye week. And yeah, this talent is irresistible, and he's nice and fresh and ready to face the Giants in what isn't a real road game. You know, they play at the same stadium. The Giants have an average to bad rush defense, and in general, as I mentioned before, one of those defenses that you want to target. We all know that Zach Wilson under centre means that people like Garrett Wilson are going to take a hit, but I think it doesn't really make a difference for Hall. You know, he's going to get the usage of the lead back in this team because he's talented and he's the best offensive player on the team, in my opinion. It'll be a forget about it for the rest of the season after this week, once his role is fully cemented and we all remember who he is. So I'm taking my chance to pick Breece Hall whilst I can.
Right. I'm going Ghost Edwards.
He's just changed that now. He had Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
I'm going with Gus Edwards. Edwards. Listen, all this talk about the backfield in Baltimore once Dobbins got injured, whether, you know, it'd be Justice Hill was the guy to pick up or whether there was anything to make of Melvin Gordon signing for the team. No. This team's lead running back is Gus Edwards. Now, of course, that doesn't mean an incredible amount as what it would, you know, doesn't mean as much as it would do for any other team because Lamar Jackson is the team's lead rusher, best offensive weapon, all that sort of stuff. But I don't think that means this backfield is devoid of any fantasy value, and I think Edwards provides the majority of that value going forward. He's been by far the most utilised running back on the team, averaging 13 carries a game since week 2 after Dobbins was ruled out for the season. His yardage per game hasn't been amazing, but his efficiency as a runner has been very good, averaging 4 yards per carry. Of course, last week's blow-up game came with a broken 80-yard catch and run that padded his stat, and he's been undeniably touchdown dependent, but the usage is there, and if there was ever a week to go with a usage play at running back, it's this week where the Ravens faced the Cardinals. Arizona, they're giving up almost 4.5 yards per carry and over 100 rushing yards a game to running backs, along with over 25 fantasy points a game as well to the position. I think Edwards is a decent start once again this week.
Nice. Quarterback, Sharples?
I thought it was a little bit of a desolate wasteland quarterback this week. So I've gone for a guy that wouldn't normally pick, but he had a big week last week. Gardner Minshew. Projected a measly 13 points. Obviously, a lot of his points last week came from those 2 rushing touchdowns, but he has thrown for over 300 yards in his last 2 games. If he can just tighten up on the interceptions and fumbles, because he's had 4 interceptions and 4 fumbles in both those last 2 games as well. All he needs to do for me to get a nice hit is 200 yards, couple of touchdowns, we can all go home happy. So, Gardner Minshew this week. I'm attacking more the projection than the player and the team, because he's going up against the Saints, who are a good defense, but trying to cheese the system. Let's go and get 12 rushing touchdowns again, but then also give Jonathan Taylor some, because I've got him too.
Of course. I'm going to go Jared Goff with your head.
Oh,
That's something that people said at some point, I think. Projected 16.2 versus the Las Vegas Raiders. It was a terrible week for the Lions this past week, as we've established. It was, in fact, the worst game of the season for Jared Goff, as he didn't throw a touchdown, though he did still throw for over 280 yards, which, very high kind of average yards per game for Goff this season. They got smacked in the mouth from the get-go by the Ravens, and thus the Lions were not able to control the tempo of the game offensively at all. This next week is a different story, however, as he plays the Raiders, who just lost to an undrafted rookie quarterback from a Division II college. Now, for context, that's like me. No, it's not.
Not at all.
It's not. But what I will say is, not many of Bilbo Bagent's Division II college teammates will be making it anywhere near the NFL. It is a lower standard of college football, but he came in there and he wiped the floor with the Raiders, to be honest with you. So Goff this week for the Rams, for the Lions, sorry. I think they're going to absolutely stomp the Raiders, and Goff gets back on track, throws a couple of touchdowns, has a nice fantasy day, finally utilising both Amon-Ra and Jameson Williams.
I'm going to go with Dracula Prescott. Coming off a bye week, which is always a plus. Cowboys are at home against the Rams, who have been stuttering, but they will be able to compete with the weapons that they have, so I think it can be a competitive game. In 2 home games this year, Prescott has thrown 516 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He's been safe and reliable when he's been at Jerry World. He's coming off a bye week, as I said, and after the best game of his season so far against the Chargers in Week 6, where he threw for over 270 yards, rushed for 40 yards as well, and had 2 total touchdowns. That is a stat that bodes well for Prescott this week, as he's against the Rams defense, who have given up 4 rushing touchdowns to quarterbacks so far this season, as well as 72 rushing yards to Jalen Hurts, 47 rushing yards to Josh Dobbs, 56 rushing yards to Anthony Richardson. You get what I'm saying. So as long as the Cowboys continue to design runs for Prescott, I can see him having an absolutely fine week in a game that the Cowboys will absolutely fancy themselves to win.
Nice. And finally, let's go to the wide receiver, Sharples.
I've gone for Jordan, Addy, son, quick, he's coming. Lock yourself in the bathroom. Your mother and sister are already dead. It's too late. Go. Oh, God, no. No. He's projected a measly 14.7 points. I just think it's... Oh, I tried to go through that, couldn't.
Yeah, well done.
He projected a measly 14.7 points. I think he's going to get all those targets that he got last time against the Niners. Maybe a couple of touchdowns as well. I think we're going to start seeing his projections go up and up over the next few weeks. So I'm getting in while he's low. Jordan Addison this week at wide receiver.
Nice. I'm going to go die on Tay. John, son, quick. No, I can't remember the whole thing, spiel. Deontay Johnson, projected 12.9 versus Jacksonville. Now, I'm happy here because I get to talk about one of my favourite players in the league, Deontay Johnson. There aren't many players that run routes as crisp as Deontay. He came back from IR this past week and had a nice game, 5 for 79. He's always been a PPR machine. I expect his 66% of offensive snaps to go up this week. That's what he had this past week when he came back, which means that he should go back to leading this team in targets, since he was already second in targets this past week on those reduced snaps. The Jacksonville matchup is certainly not one that you're scared of either, so plug Johnson in this week, and I'd say for the foreseeable. Lou?
I'm going with Christian Skirk, or Scarecrow, or,
Oh, I like Scarecrow.
Christian Kirk.
Yeah.
Okay. I saw your face puzzled there, Al, about who it was. Christian Kirk. Christian Skirk. Projected 13.1 fantasy points this week.
Scarecrow would have been better.
Scarecrow would have been better. That's just 0.5 fantasy points more than Calvin Ridley is projected. Generous considering he's scoring over 3.5 fantasy points more than Ridley per game. Ridley's also busted in 3 of 7 matchups and only boomed in 2. Granted, Christian Kirk has only blown up in 1 game, but he's also only busted in 1 game too. And that game being the Jags season opener where Kirk, he was only targeted 3 times and had 1 catch for 9 yards. You know, week 7, we know that week 1 is an outlier now. You know, in fact, take that 1 game away and Kirk's averaging over 77 yards and 8 targets and 6 receptions per game. They're the numbers of a wide receiver 1 on a team, which is what Kirk is for this Jags team. Mm-hmm. He's been much safer. Even in Calvin Ridley's second blow-up game versus the Falcons, Kirk was an absolutely fine start that week. He faces a Steelers defense this week who, under Mike Tomlin, as I was saying before, have proven against the odds that they're an NFL team who can compete in any matchup, really. Where they can't compete, though, is against wide receivers. And in 6 games played, the Steelers have given up over 200 receiving yards, 14 receptions, and a touchdown per game to opposing wide receivers. It might be spooky season, as we've been saying, but I'm too scared to bet on Calvin Ridley for the foreseeable future. I feel much more assured going with the guy that is clearly the best wide receiver on this team, Christian Scarecrow.
Scarecrow, nice. And finally, let's get in to those Week 8 game tiers led by Alex Sharples. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I thought there was a lot of spooky games this week, and by that I mean not very good, a lot in the meh. So I tried to spread them out a bit, stick a few in the good, a few in the bad. But I do think there's a lot of middle of the road fixtures, maybe a lot of good teams against not so good teams. But in the dreadful section, this week we've got the Titans against the Falcons, Panthers against the Texans, and Broncos Chiefs. I think either the Chiefs will shellac them or it'll just be a generally low scoring game. So those are my worst ones this week.
Okay.
Moving up to meh, we've got the Bills versus the Buccaneers. Giants Jets could be a bit spicy, of both New Jersey teams, but obviously not doing great at the minute, so I've kept it in there. Commanders against the Eagles, Colts Saints, Cardinals Ravens, Chargers Bears, and Lions Raiders.
Probably agree, yeah.
Yeah, moving into good, we've got the Steelers against the Jags, Packers Vikings, Dolphins Patriots, Niners Bengals, and Seahawks against the Browns.
Just through, I suppose, I suppose just through sheer want in terms of wanting these teams to be better than perhaps they have been in recent weeks, I would push the Niners Bengals up one personally into great. But yeah, carry on.
That's fair. And to round it off, again, I don't think this will be super top tier. We've definitely had better games so far, but I do think the Cowboys-Rams should be a good game.
Yeah.
The Cowboys. Can the Rams answer the call? So yeah, that is the lone great game this week in the Lone Star State.
Good stuff. Lou, have you got something to finish us off?
We do. We've got an email. You can email us at inthepocketacrossthepond@gmail.com if you think my Aaron Rodgers impression was excellent, which would be correct.
We got a lot of votes in about the Carragher impression. We didn't. But if we did, they'd have said it was mine.
Okay. Got an email from Joe Box.
Hello,
Joseph Boxers is what I can only assume his full name is.
Yeah.
The question for the next episode is the title of the email. Hello. Been listening to the podcast recently. Big fan so far. Thank you very much. That's very kind.
So far, there's still time for us to lose him, so just
Plenty
be careful.
of time.
We hope
Plenty
so.
of time.
I'd love to hear some opinions on the Carolina Panthers
Again?
situation. Carolina Panthers situation. I'm a huge Panthers fan with so much optimism into the new season with Reich and the coaching staff, Bryce Young, etc. And how it's all panned out so far is truly devastating. My question is, there's two questions here. Let's go for the first one first. My question is, how much of the blame do you think the front office should bear? Scott Fitterer has made some questionable moves during his time as GM, and it's looking like we'll need to trade Brian Burns to get some draft capital back after the Bryce Young trade. Do you think this season could be it for the front office if results don't improve, or do you think they will pin the blame on Reich and the coaching staff? That's part one. What do you think, lads?
I think neither. I think if it's twofold, if Anthony Richardson and particularly CJ Stroud didn't look so great, like historically great in Stroud's case, and maybe if Young hadn't looked so raw, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. It just comes down to the fact that you picked your guy in the draft, and at the minute, your guy doesn't look like the one to have picked out of those players. However, his trajectory is very much that of a rookie quarterback, especially of his skill set, and CJ Stroud is kind of an outlier at the minute. So I think we're blowing things way out of proportion when if Young was looking amazing, then things would all be fine, even if they weren't particularly winning games. If Young just looked a bit better, I think we're too quick to write off Young as, we whiffed on this one. He's played 6 games.
Yeah, I agree.
And he wasn't ready to play, clearly.
And I think, sorry to hear this, Joe, but I think the Panthers war is going to be crap this year.
So
They're always going to be. They're going to give it time. So I think that optimism should stay. Just, it was never going to be this year. Sharples, I'm going to come to you with the next part of Joe's question. He says, also, what receivers do you think will be best fit for the Panthers if they were to trade for one?
So I thought one which it's also realistic because he's not had his contract sorted out yet with his current team, which is the Cincinnati Bengals. I thought T. Higgins might be a nice little slot in there. Obviously, currently second fiddle to Jamar Chase. I'm sure he would relish the option to be the wide receiver one there, and I think he's definitely got the talent to be that. As I said, they've still not come to agreement yet with the Bengals. Obviously, it's not been his best season. It's probably likely that the Bengals don't re-sign him, so in that case, they'll probably be looking to trade him. And I think as good as Adam Thielen's been, he would be a great wide receiver too, a good slot guy, but you want a deep threat. You want someone who can spread the cornerbacks and the safeties, and I do think T. Higgins can do that. And also, you can't really judge Bryce Young so far when the best player he's got with him is a 32-year-old Adam Thielen. Obviously, Jonathan Mingo hasn't quite worked out yet. Miles Sanders is terrible. And I do think giving him a good asset like that, you would be able to judge him a bit more accurately. So yeah, I think T Higgins would tick a few boxes there.
Yeah,
Nice.
I think losing T Higgins for free at the end of the year, if you get a ring, if you get a chip, then that's worth it. So I don't think T Higgins is going anywhere. Plus, you kind of spent some draft capital on Jonathan Mingo. You got Adam Thielen. I don't know what another really good wide receiver does to this team at the minute when they're just not there. They're just not ready. The ridiculous thing is that they don't have a first round pick. So Scott Fitterer, what are you doing there? No first round pick next year, so they can't even draft Marvin Harrison Jr. if they wanted a wide receiver in the draft there. I suppose I don't think wide receiver is this team's biggest problem.
Yeah. And I think I'll end it by just saying I love the idea of the trade request sort of coming about to Higgins and his agent coming to him and being like, listen, the Panthers want to trade for you. And then T. Higgins looking at the roster, seeing Adam Thielen's name and thinking, nope, I'll try my chances beating Jamar Chase instead.
Yeah. Good stuff. Well, thank you very much.
Sorry, just to answer the last bit of the question as well. Do you think they will pin the blame on Reich and the coaching staff? 100%. All execs do, and they need to be held accountable. However, let's give it a year before we judge him on the Bryce Young thing. But yeah, 100%. Frank Reich will be gone before Scott Fitterer is 1,000,000%. Yeah,
and feel free to switch this off right now because it's coming from an idiot Cowboys fan. But to Joe and Rob and any other Panthers fans listening, I don't know what you were expecting this year. To be honest,
You idiots.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I don't know what you're expecting this year in terms of. I don't think any of us thought they were going to be good.
I did.
Apart from you, no.
I did not.
Thank you very much for the question, Joe.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks
for that
question.
And that's going to do it. Cheers, lads. Enjoy Halloween, the spookiest time of year. Mm-hmm. Hopefully Red Zone isn't too spooky, although I did hear the witching hour in the middle of it. That's Halloween related as well.
Wrap it up.
Thank you very much for listening. Enjoy week 8.
Enjoy.
See ya.
See ya.
Good day.